Clark. Thank you. I grew up in those prairies, just a little further north. And Ray Stevens, by the way, has a fantastic song called Be Your Own Best Friend. It's very seldom known, but next time you could learn it. Look it up. So welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living. Happy Mother's Day. Yes, of course, because all of us who are nurturers, all of us who love people and give love, have that mothering ability. And so each one of us can celebrate Mother's Day, men and women, because I know there are many men that are very, very supportive, very caring, very nurturing, and especially to the mothers who gave birth. And so our biological mothers, the whole month of May has been about imagination. And this today is about creativity. And there could be no more creative act than the birth of a child. There could be nothing more creative than bringing forth a new life and then raising that life, allowing that new being to truly make his or her way in the world by giving room, by giving permission, and by loving greatly. So for all of you who either are in that role, or have been in that role, thank you so much for extending yourself as love, as stepmoms, as aunties, as uncles, as friends. It's such an important thing. This is my first Mother's Day without my mom present on this side. And I've actually been feeling closer to her because I see her in things. I see her in butterflies all the time. There's a pair of doves, Diane. I'm pretty sure they're doves because we got to know doves at our old center very well. They're making a nest in my gutter. And I'm just hoping it doesn't rain until those babies are born and come out of there. But anyway, I'm not moving them. That's because I'd love to see the male and the female building this nest. And it's very heartwarming. So, but Leila Clark has been on my mind. Leila Clark truly was a woman of creativity, a woman who dared greatly to go beyond whatever she had been taught and find new ideas and practice them. She was a woman who loved making costumes. None of her children, maybe my baby sister is a little bit good at that. The rest of us were not like she is. She could just whip up a costume for anything. And my older sister remembers one Saturday night saying to her, "Mom, I need a white shirt for tomorrow. I'm singing in the choir." And she sewed a white shirt. She stayed up all night sewing this shirt for my sister because that's one of the things good mothers do that have the ability, etc. And we took it for granted. We took it for granted, just like Daryl and children thought every mommy is a piano teacher. We all thought that all mummies are creative and they make things and they do things for their children. I remember when I was preschool, so maybe 4 or 5, and my brothers, I might have even been younger because my brothers weren't in the picture and they were 3 years younger than me. And she made a pumpkin shell, which was my Halloween costume. And my sister was dressed as Peter Piper. Peter Pumpkin Eater. And so we went around Halloweening as with me in this thing. And I don't even know how I walked in it because, you know, I'm a little kid and this thing is so big. But anyway, that was the creativity of my mom. And so I salute her and all you women and men who can see things from a different perspective. Now, what my mom wasn't was a good teacher of creativity. She was not that. One time when I was a teenager, Mom, I'd really like to learn to sew. My cousin knows how to sew. Would you please teach me. Oh, I'd love to do that. So she cut out the pattern, she sewed the thing, and there you go. I didn't learn a thing. I saw you doing all this work and I got a new outfit, but I didn't learn anything. She didn't have that concept of passing it on to the rest of us. So today, I want to also talk about that nature of creativity and how it gets squelched. And this comes from the book that I was talking about last week, Creative Confidence. And Chris and I had dinner with his best friend on Friday night, and we had this conversation. And I said something to his friend's girlfriend, and he said to me, "You're very bold. That was a bold question." And I lied. I said, "Yes, I am." I don't consider myself bold. In fact, as I thought about it, I thought, I'm shocked that someone thinks I'm bold. But what you need to be creative is boldness. And what stops creativity is often timidity. And the other thing it stops it, perfectionism. If you have to do it perfectly, you won't ever get that creative flow going. You have to be willing to do it imperfectly, to make mistakes. In fact, they say that this book that Kelly's wrote says that they give their students at Stanford University the assignment to write a failure resume, which they said is really hard for all these young people that came in with scholarships and really high marks to even consider where in their life they've failed. But their whole point is, if you haven't failed, then you haven't risked greatly. You haven't gone into those creative regions where you didn't know that you didn't know, where all the juiciness is. So to be willing to give up perfectionism and to be bold, to strike out and say, yes, I can. Yes, I can. He talks about, David Kelly in the book talks about when they were children. And he said, both my brother and I were really blessed to have the kind of parents we have because they encouraged our creativity. They let us alone and they encouraged us to experiment, explore, do things that they weren't supervising. So for instance, he said his brother decided he didn't like the color of his bike, so he got some neon green spray paint and he painted his bike bright neon green. And his parents, I mean, it's his bike. But the other thing he said is they love to take things apart. Now, I have a brother that loves to take things apart too, and he always was pretty good at being able to put it all back together, at least most of the parts. But one of the things they talk about is taking apart the piano and then getting to the place where they realized they had no idea how to put it back together. So he said in his brother's room is still that piece of the piano that looks like a harp. It's on the wall. So evidently they didn't need the piano as an instrument. I thought, what great parents. What great parents to allow these young kids, their minds to expand and explore and try new things. And you may or may not have parents like that, but Ray Stephen Song says you can be your own best friend, which says to me, you can now give yourself permission to be bold, to be creative, to try new things, to experiment with life, to make choices that would enliven you, enrich you. Now, Ernest Holmes didn't say this, he didn't say it anywhere near what David Kelly and Tom Kelly did, because his thought was, when you know your oneness with Source, you already know that you're creative. There are no stopping places from divine mind. Divine mind is always creative. Every single one of us has that ability within ourselves because, first of all, we're made in the image and likeness of the divine, which means number one, we're love. Number two, we're creativity. Number three, we're all knowing. All knowing. And number four, we're all power. There is nothing that we cannot achieve if we're willing to fail. If we're willing to give it our best shot and then do it again. Look at Edison. 1,000 times, more than 1,000 times, trying to invent that incandescent light. But he said there were no failures. Every single thing led him to the next idea, to the next awareness, to have the make the next attempt, the next try. And I think sometimes as adults we forget that we too can try again. We too can look at it a different way. We too can say, okay, that infinite presence within me wants to express something through me. I wonder what it is. And then to experiment, to let that grace flow through us and inform us of the next possibilities. Pardon me a second. Ernest Holmes says a lot about creativity. He says, we're dealing with a power. This comes from his book called Creative Mind, just a tiny little book that he wrote in 1918. We're dealing with a power which is itself limitless. We limit it, and so it cannot become to us the bigger thing. Of itself, the power is the same that made the worlds. It cannot realize any sense of limitation. Stop limiting things. Things are big as we make them, no more, no less. There is room at the top. Get on the top of everything and dare to dominate the earth. The things are given to us to use, make use of them. Everything is limitless. And we must see the truth that the fault is not in the law, but in ourselves when we fail. Not with God, but with man. Dare, dare, dare. Dare to have a new idea. Dare to be greater than you've always thought yourself to be. Dare to let the whole power of God flow through you and live fully your life right now, right here. So how does our life get to be the way it is? It gets to be this way because this is our habit, our acceptance, because we have taken that limitless law and planted some beliefs in it that weren't true. So if you've got a belief that you're not creative, okay, how about this? How many of you think you cannot draw? Yeah, quite a few. Okay. So that's what they specialize in this course in Stanford. They specialize in changing your minds about your stopping places, about saying there's a way, because here's what stops us from drawing. It's fear of failure. It's fear of failure. And I already told you the two reasons that you don't try is because you're timid or because you're a perfectionist. fear of failure. And he says also that, and we would agree with this in Science of Mind. He said a series of small steps can make a big shift in consciousness. He talks about a psychologist he works with, Bandura is his last name, and he can cure people of phobias like fear of snakes. Now, Judy and June aren't here today, but so because we have models of people who have love of snakes, but many people, it's a phobia that even if you mention there's a snake in the same house or the same room, that it's like, no, I'm not comfortable here. I'm not going near that snake. I'm not going into that room. And he can take that and by small steps, get people so they actually touch the snake, appreciate the snake, find beauty in the snake. And David Kelly says we do the same thing as far as creativity goes. We simply take small steps towards showing you that you're more creative than you think you are. There's more power within you than you have given yourself credit for. So, and he says that the small steps start with, first of all, I'm going to take you into the room next door and there's a snake in there. And the response is usually, the hell you are. And then the next thing is to look into the room through a one-way mirror and you can see someone holding the snake. And then the subject is asked, what do you think the snake is going to do? It's a python. Says, I think it's going to wrap around his neck and choke him to death. Every time, every subject says the same thing because see, if you're coming from fear, you can only see through that context of fear. And then standing in the doorway with the snake being held by someone and then getting a step closer and step closer. But here's the major point. Once the person touches the snake, the phobia is gone. And here's the even better news. Once that phobia is gone, they're free of any kinds of fears. I know that feeling when I walked on fire. That was like, oh, I can do anything. I can do anything. I walked on fire. It was impossible to me in my mind, but I did it. I think it's the same thing as touching the snake. Just to imagine how much fuller and richer your world would be when you allow yourself to dream big, have big ideas without limits, without any withholding, and simply be this greatness that you came here to be. Our moms that are here today are that greatness. You know, one of the things I read about mothers is a child's first God. The word for God for a child is mommy. It's true. It's true. Because this one is the nurturer, the giver of food, the giver of clothing, comfort, care, protector. And then we increase our awareness of that God presence. So, what can you do today? you can spend some time thinking about how connected you really are to the source of all. And when you remember that, you know that you're unlimited because the source is unlimited. And then second thing, this just comes so naturally after the first one, you can be grateful for who you are. Appreciate the divine presence in you and all of the ways it's been up until now and all of the ways it can be. Because you're the only limiting factor. And then number 3, focus on the good stuff. The big picture that is happening. And then the next one is to enjoy the choices you get to make. Every choice, just like the affirmation, decide today. Every choice leads down a different path. What choices are you making? And then melt into the oneness with that infinite source. Melt into the oneness of that infinite source. I want to close with a couple of quotes that I really like about mothers. This first one is from Mitch Albom, who wrote Tuesdays with Morrie and some other quite feeling level books. He says this, but behind all your stories is your mother's story, because hers is where yours begins. Behind all stories is your mother's story, because hers is where yours begins. My older sister was born when my mom was 21. And I think about what my mom did. My dad had just joined the services to be in the war, and he went to somewhere around Vancouver. So mom packed up this baby, took the train to Vancouver from Maine, Saskatchewan, Canada, and found herself a place to live. I mean, she had a baby, and when you had to wash diapers, and there was no one to help her. Her mother was still in Saskatchewan, 21 years young. And it was no wonder she was so creative. She had to see outside the box. And behind my mother's story, my story starts. So she also said, someone called Donna Ball from At Home on Ladybug Farm says this: motherhood is a choice you make every day, to put someone else's happiness and well-being ahead of your own, to teach the hard lessons, to do the right thing, even when you're not sure what the right thing is, and to forgive yourself over and over again for doing everything wrong. Well, we know we have done nothing wrong. We've made choices, we've made mistakes, but as it says biblically, go and sin no more. And remember, sin is self-inflicted nonsense. So go and sin no more. Be creative, dare boldly, and so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Diane's going to set us up, and then I'm going to pray for all of us in the first person.
Everywhere I am is holy ground, for I walk in God. Everywhere I am is holy ground, for the power and the presence of pure spirit makes my path gentle and easy. Everywhere I am is holy ground, and I live in love. Everywhere I am is holy ground, for the power and the presence of pure love makes my path gentle and easy. Gentle, easy, holy, holy ground.
And so opening to the awareness that right where I am, right where each one of us is holy ground. For this is the place of creativity. This is the place of aliveness, of oneness. This is the place that source is recognized and expressed. This is the place where that one power creates through awareness of itself. And knowing that this one is right where I am, in me, through me, as me, and for me, I speak my word for each one here in the first person, knowing that anything that is not right for people, they just let slip away like water off a duck's back. And anything that is right, they let impregnate. So this is what I know. I know that there is only one, and that one is what and who I am and whose I am. I know that my physical beingness is an expression of this one. It is filled with vitality and love. It is filled with the expression of the divine, ageless and power-filled and pure. When I know that this one that is the expression of spirit is the me that I am. And furthermore, I know that not only is it that perfect assimilation of ideas that serve me and perfect elimination of ideas that no longer are useful, and perfect circulation of those ideas I want to contemplate and remember and use. I know that this happens at every level of consciousness, both in the form of words, in the form of ideas, the form of food, of body, because it is all one. Furthermore, I know that I am one with the love that God is, and that love flows through me and from me as divine mind, as divine light. It is that which is healing, that which is blessing, that which is moving each one into an awareness of his or her greatness. That the divine mother in each one and in me is seeing the perfection everywhere, seeing the beloved, the child. Furthermore, I know that I am the abundance, the prosperity, the wholeness of this one, and that my life continues to expand and grow and get bigger, richer, fuller, freer. It's the nature of life. And furthermore, I absolutely know that I am the creative expression. And that creative expression flows through me as new ideas, as willingness to go beyond the stopping places, as willingness to make mistakes. I'm willing to make that resume and to learn from it. So knowing all of this and knowing that each one is blessed, that this center is a blessing to each and every person, I simply place this word in law, trusting that it's done. And please help me anchor it by saying with me, and so it is.
Thank you, Reverend Heather. And please welcome back the quartet.